Go ahead.
I was talking fantasy football with my friends the other day.
Alan, Bravo,
Echo,
November.
Tango.
On.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Bent on Fantasy Football. We are here in the beginning of season number 2 in the preseason, and we've got a lot in store for you today. This last week, I had a draft. My good friend Josh and I here are going to talk about my first 5 draft picks, who I picked, why I picked them, and get his input on it. I want your comments down below. We enabled comments, so put your comments in down below. Let us know what you think of my picks, what I could have done differently, what I did good. Tell us the whole story on it. How's it going, Josh?
Oh, it's going great.
Good. Yeah, we've got a few things that we want to cover this week. We're going to get into our bent predictions. We're going to get into what has us bent. And as we always do, we're going to start it off with our drinks. Josh, what kind of a drink do you have this week?
I'm drinking a beer, just a beer.
Just a beer? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what's so special about that beer? Why did you pick that one?
This is a like and subscribe beer.
Ah, you got the like and subscribe?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got actually the subscribe and like beer. So, you guys, I know this is silly. We do this every week. We have fun making up these stupid wrappers for these cans. But the reason we're doing it is you notice that we've done some changes in the dungeon here in the last few weeks. We're trying to get a better experience for you guys, have some fun with this. If you guys will actually get your names on one of these cans and sponsor us, we'll either put your name on the can, we'll put it on the wall, we'll put it on some of our props that we have that will be coming up. But we want your help. All the money that we get from that is actually going to go back into the show to get a better show for you, to get a better background, and just to make the show a lot better for you. So
maybe we can get a makeup artist too, get that glare off Alan's forehead.
Yeah, there, it's gone. It's gone. All right. No, we live with the glare just like I do. So, and of course we've got these Bent on Fantasy Football t-shirts too that we can get to you. Anything else in particular going on this week, Josh, that maybe I should be aware of?
Not much. I did wake up to the news that Travis Etienne is out for the year, which kind of ruined my bent prediction, or what my future bent prediction was going to be this week, that he was going to run away with the Rookie of the Year, but that ain't happening. So
it won't happen. Yeah,
got a little something different on my mind for this week.
Yeah, my sources said that he'll be out for several months. Even if it's only several months and not the entire season, it doesn't really matter. That bent prediction is gone, unfortunately. But we do have some draft picks to go over with you. So I want to run through who my draft picks this last Sunday were. And again, I want to hear from you guys. And I also want you to like and subscribe. Did I mention that? Subscribe and like, or like and subscribe. Either way, it doesn't matter. We want you tapping those buttons. We want you sharing these videos. Show it to your friends, family. And great introduction would be, hey, you want to see the goofiest 2 guys talking about fantasy football? And then show them this. If this doesn't make them wet themselves, then nothing will. Anyway, so this last Sunday, the draft, first overall pick, I had Christian McCaffrey was my very first pick overall. And let me kind of tell you why. McCaffrey has had a kind of a rocky last couple seasons, or last season. A lot of injuries, so I was a little bit woeful on that. Generally, what my rule of thumb is with running backs, especially, if they have an injury and it takes them out for the season or most of the season, I don't pick them the next year in the draft. Or I'll get them way back in the draft someplace. But there's too many fantasy points on the table there. My mindset was I like Henry, I like Cook, and I like McCaffrey. So, all things in, somehow, some way, they've got to get the ball to McCaffrey. And there's a lot of fantasy points on the table there. So I had to go with McCaffrey. What's your thoughts, Jeff?
Well, before I can give you my thoughts, it'd be hard for me to speak with a dry mouth, so I think we need to open our beers here.
Oh, you know what? I forget that
every single week. 2 weeks in a row he forgot it. So.
All right, so we'll make it a point. First thing, every week, we open up a can of beer. So let's pop open a cold one. You guys sit back and enjoy the show.
Now getting back to your number one pick there, Christian McCaffrey, and I'm going to say something that I haven't really told you that often, especially in fantasy football over the years. I'm proud of you.
Oh,
Yeah. He probably won't hear that again this year, but I know Alan and I have been going back and forth. He was looking at some other guys, and I don't know if my input swayed that decision
it did partially
in any manner, but the more numbers we crunched, that point differential that Christian McCaffrey shares is just huge.
Yeah,
you said, there's going to be a lot of points left on the table if you don't take him.
It is. Like I said, last year's numbers were a little skewed because of the injuries, and he only played like 3 weeks of the season or something. And I drafted him first last year, too. I had the first pick in a different league last year and drafted him first, and I paid the price. So this year is a make or break. If McCaffrey fails on me this year, I'm done. I'm never drafting him ever again. I don't care if I get the number one pick and he's the only player. I'm not drafting him again if he lets me down. Not 2 years in a row. But
I don't think you have to worry about this year.
Yeah.
I expect big things from him, especially in that Joe Brady offense.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a little bit more cautious with him too. I don't think they're going to give him the opportunity to get hurt if they don't have to. They realized how valuable he is last year, and I don't think that'll go. So
Absolutely.
all right. So moving on to my second overall pick, I had going. Actually, let's kind of run through the number 2, 3, 4, and 5 picks were all running backs in the draft. We had Dalvin Cook went second. We had Derrick Henry went third, and then we had Alvin Kamara went fourth, and then the fifth overall was Ezekiel Elliott, which, my own opinion, I don't like Zeke at number 5. I like him a little bit higher. I like him a little bit later.
I like him at number 2, by the way. So
the reason I say
our
that,
opinion differs on that part.
the reason I say that, also, other league, third pick overall last year, I took Elliott. And I know you don't draft according to what happened last year, but it did make me realize how vulnerable that Dallas Cowboy offense is if they don't have Dak's in there. If Dak is not in there, their numbers drop significantly. A lot of teams are like that, but with my next couple picks, I kind of made sure that doesn't happen to me this year. My number 2 pick overall was...
Oh, how many teams are in the league, by the way?
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's a 10-team league. Again, I had the number 1 pick, so it had to go all the way up to 10 and then snake back down to me at number 1. So, in the little bit of time that I'm waiting there, I'm getting very anxious, and I'm going, come on, and I want to get to that next draft pick, and I'm listening to all these names go off the board, just like I do every year, and it's a little mind racking, or what's the word I'm looking for here? It's racking my brain trying to figure out what I'm going to do.
Patience is not one of Alan's greater virtues.
No,
by the way,
it's not even a virtue for me. But when it comes to draft, it's definitely not. So my second pick overall, seeing all these running backs going off the board, I'm trying to actually sway the draft a little bit at this point. I know it's a little early to be doing that, but the running backs were getting kind of thin. So I went with a wide receiver. I went with DK Metcalf. The reason is, and you'll see a little parity or a little pair up on my number 5 pick, but DK Metcalf, he's a solid receiver. He's poised in that offense to have a big season. A couple wide receivers went in the first round. Let's take a look. Let's see, Aaron Jones went.
Devontae Adams, I believe, went first round, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, and so did. Hopkins went in the second round. DeAndre Hopkins went in the second round, which is kind of surprising to me. I didn't think he'd fall that far, being that all those running backs went early, but he did. And
where'd Tyreek Hill fall in all of that? I didn't look.
He was right around. He was the number 4 overall pick. Or I'm sorry, no, he was. He was number 14 overall pick.
Wow.
I can't read. Okay, that's better. But he was a number 14 pick overall. So second round, 4th pick, which, those two guys going that early was really a good time for me to get a wide receiver. It was a good time for me to make a statement that, hey, wide receivers are on a run now. And it did. Wide receivers started going off the board right after that. I don't have the exact ones that went after me. I know Patrick Mahomes was next after my 20th overall pick, or my 21st overall pick. He went number 22.
So he was the first quarterback to go, third round, right?
He was, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Or just toward the end of the second round in a 12-team draft, basically.
Right. So, yeah, he's going to fall right into that end of the first round, beginning of the second round territory for you, most likely.
End of second, beginning third, you mean, not end of first, beginning of second.
Well, yeah, he could go earlier than that, though.
And that's too early for me.
You think so?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, there's a lot of talent out there with running backs, and running backs are going to go like crazy again. I mean, it happens every year. We see it. We get away from that running back by committee thing, and wide receivers become a premium in the second, third rounds. When you see the talent that's still out there. So I went with Metcalf. He's got a good foreseeable future. Knock on wood, he stays healthy. He had a few issues last year, kept him out of a few games, but still had some pretty impressive numbers though, despite that. So what's your thought on Metcalf?
I'm really high on Metcalf this year. One thing after looking through this, now this is the league that Alan and I aren't in together, one of ours. After looking at this, what kind of shocked me is some of these receivers that went after Metcalf. And when I'm not talking 2 or 3 picks, I'm talking 4, 5, 6, 7 picks. Stefan Diggs, I would have loved to have right in that 20 to 21 range. He went 23rd overall.
Yeah, and I can see him going in about that same range in most drafts. I personally am not a big fan of Stefan Diggs. I'm sure he's a great guy, and if he's watching, I'm really sorry. But I've seen him at his best, and I've seen him at mediocre, and his mediocre is worse than most people's bad. I'm not a big fan of his as far as fantasy goes. Now, don't get me wrong. Coming back, if he was available, I would have taken him. Number 1 receiver, I would have taken him. So, but you like him this year, huh?
I do. I really do. He's going to get a lot of those targets. Besides Knox, who else is really there? I mean, Beasley, okay. Don't even get me started on Beasley. But he's going to have – he's a target monster, and there's just no avoiding that.
Yeah, that's true.
That being said, I do love DK Metcalf. He's right in the range of Stefan Diggs. I think I have him a few lower. But I like your first 2 picks. I like how you're kind of balancing out the team there.
Yeah, so the thing that kind of was in the back of my mind as I was picking Metcalf is you got Tyler Lockett there in Seattle also. Tyler Lockett had a really good year last year. It wasn't, Pro Bowl or forget Pro Bowl. It wasn't a super year, but it was a good, solid year. I had him last year, and he performed when I needed him to. So that was kind of weighing in the back of my mind, but there's going to be a lot of targets in Seattle. There's going to be a lot of passing the ball around in Seattle. So both receivers will get their share. I think Metcalf will end up having some more receptions, though, than Lockett this year.
I do. And by the way, Tyler Lockett, his 53-point game knocked me out of the playoffs last year, if you guys remember that.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to my third round pick. I have one solid at this point. I have one solid running back, and I have one solid wide receiver. So knowing that the running backs are becoming few and far in between, I went with Clyde Edwards-Helaire as my number 3 pick overall. And here again was my thought process with it. Helaire, going to be the number 1 running back in Kansas City, no doubt about it. There's no competition whatsoever. He's going to get all the carries. Yes, he's not that great at catching the football. I know this. But what he lacks in receptions, he makes up for in yards. They've got a revamped offensive line in Kansas City. They're going to have solid protection for the quarterback to sit back and throw, to run that play action. They can still run the ball. So there's going to be a lot of positive things going on for Helaire this year. Normally I would pace him back a little bit, but this year I like what they've done, and I think they're working towards keeping him and Mahomes healthy.
Yeah, and I love that pick at this point. I mean, best player available, best running back available, really filled the need. Anybody in that Kansas City offense, to me, is poised for success. Mm-hmm. With the ability of Patrick Mahomes to really run, get outside the pocket and stretch the field, you're going to play 11-on-11 football, whereas a lot of teams without a running quarterback like that, you're going to double team, you're going to stack the box. That just isn't going to happen in Kansas City.
Right.
So I expect big things from Helaire. just like I do at most of the skill positions in Kansas City. So
Yeah.
love the pick at that point. 2 running backs and a receiver at this point.
Yep. So, and you know what had me hesitating a little bit is because, you know, that's such an explosive offense in Kansas City. The ball's going to get spread around a lot, and it's going to limit everybody's touches. But the thing is, you're going to have a lot of big plays in there, and I believe Hilaire is going to be a part of that. So, I went with him. So at this point, like you said, I have 2 running backs and 1 wide receiver. So then my fourth pick in the draft.
At number 40.
Yeah, at number 40 was Robert Woods. And here's my thought process with Robert Woods. We've got the same thing going on in LA as we have going on in Seattle. Okay, we've got Robert Woods as your number 1 receiver there. You've got DK Metcalf in Seattle as your number 1 receiver. They both have excellent number 2 receivers. Cooper Kupp in LA is doing fantastic. He's progressing every year, having a good year. Again, same mindset. I think that Robert Woods is still going to be the number 1 wide receiver. He's going to get the majority of targets, but the ball is going to get spread around a lot. So I want the number 1 receiver. I don't want the number 2 receiver. So I went with Woods.
Yeah, and I really like that pick. I think Woods is actually undervalued at that position, number 40 overall.
Mm-hmm.
Playing in that division, in my mind, that's the toughest division in football. I don't remember thinking that about any other division in football as long as I can remember. Any 4 of those teams could win that division now. And look at how prolific those offenses are. You got 4 running quarterbacks, or 3 running quarterbacks, and then LA. So there's going to be high-scoring games, and you're going to be in shootouts. And the traditional gunslinger like Stafford is, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets 140 to 150 targets.
Mm-hmm. And at this point in the draft, you know, I prior to this, like I said before, I have 2 running backs and a wide receiver. I need to balance the team out a little bit. Quarterbacks at this point, I'm not really worried about, simply because there's a ton of quarterbacks out there, and only one of them's off the board so far. So I'm not too worried about that. I think getting a second receiver and getting some of my big point scorers in place, I think is the big thing. So I went with Woods. Now, coming on to the 5th round, it got a little more interesting there, because at this point I'm looking at running backs and I'm looking at wide receivers, and I'm going, oh shit, there's nothing available. And so I thought, all right, we're gonna send a run of quarterbacks right up the chain and see what happens. So with my number 5 pick, I chose Russell Wilson. Thought process on that one. Russell Wilson is a perennial MVP, and without any restrictions. Every year he can be an MVP. He has the numbers, he has the stats, he has the team. I've got that connection with him and DK Metcalf now. So I've got the 2 of them I've got those 2 in a combo. But let me just warn you guys right now, that kind of happened by mistake. That was not intentional. I kind of shift away from that in drafts. The reason is it tends to make you more mediocre. If you have a good week with both of them, you're doing great. If not, then not so great either. So it lends itself to being a very, very flat line at points in the season. But I'm willing to take a chance. I've got a great quarterback there, and I've got a good wide receiver, so I'm willing to take that chance. What do you think of that pick, Josh?
You know me, I never really like to go quarterbacks early. However, one thing I want to ask you, I want to throw out a few names here. Okay, I assume the only other quarterback that I saw go was Mahomes at 22.
Mm-hmm.
Lamar Jackson, Kyler, Josh Allen, Dak. I assume those guys are already gone at this point. Is that correct?
Yeah, they are. Kyler Murray went, I think, 28th overall. Yeah, he went 28th overall, so he was gone at that point.
So he was at 28.
Yeah, and Lamar Jackson, I don't remember where he was drafted, but he was drafted before that as well. I believe that it was closer to the 3rd round.
So probably right around in that same range, early to mid 20s. Okay.
Yeah.
So with those, that being said, with those 5 quarterbacks already gone, you know, Lamar, Kyler, Josh Allen, Dak, and then Mahomes.
Now Dak was not gone at that point. Dak was still on the board.
Okay.
I chose Dak last year, and the reason I chose him last year was because of their soft schedule. and the weapons that he had around him. I'm not going that route again this year. The reason I didn't go that route this year is because I seen what happens when Dak gets hurt. The whole team, like I said earlier, the whole team just loses their oomph. So it's one of those things that I don't want to take that chance. And he was hurt last year, so going back to my rule, I try not to draft him the following year. And the reason is because I think there's going to be a lot of tentativeness in their movements, in their throwing, and just their general play. So I try to stay away from that type of thing. So Dak went a little bit later in the draft than that.
Okay. Well, that being said, seeing that there were already 4 to 5 quarterbacks gone, I have no problem with that Wilson pick. I mean, he's the next. I have him and Dak in a toss-up, basically.
Yeah.
As the next best quarterback. I'm surprised you didn't wait for Justin Fields there. What happened?
Well, and to be honest with you, at this point, I'm also thinking not only of my starting quarterback, but I'm thinking of my backup quarterback. And so what I'm doing here is I got Wilson as my starting quarterback. So I'm looking at his bye week as number 9. So I'm looking at the quarterbacks that don't have a bye week, and Justin Fields, or on week 9, and Justin Fields is one of them. And the backup that I got is also one of them. I wanted to get Trevor Lawrence. We got down to like the 13th round or 12th round, 11th or 12th round, somewhere in that ballpark. And he was still not off the board, and we're coming back down to me, and I was going to nail it. I was gonna take him right there because it was so late in the draft. I thought nobody's even thinking about that anymore. He was drafted 2 positions before me. So
And Fields was already gone at this point, I take it?
No, Fields is actually still out there.
Okay.
Fields is out there. And that's going to lead us to my bent prediction next. So we're going to talk about that in just a second or two. But at this point, I've got one quarterback. I've got 2 wide receivers and 2 running backs. I've got a balance across the board on my skill positions. Then I just got to fill in the tight end, kicker, defense. Tight ends, at this point, tight ends were pretty much off the board. We got the top 3 tight ends gone. I wanted to get T.J. Hawkinson just because he was available, and again drafted right before I got
T.J. Hawkinson this year.
I like him a lot too. I've got him ranked as my number 4 quarterback. I've got him ranked as my number 4 TD or TE. What is that word? Tight end. Yeah, there we go. Tight end.
Yes.
I've got him ranked as my number 4 tight end.
Did you take your ginkgo today, Ellen, or no?
I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to remind you next week.
Yeah, I'll take it with the Geritol later. Anyway, it'd save you an old joke there.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're at about 22 minutes into our show, so we are going to skip over to our bent predictions for this week.
Before we do that, I have a few stat corrections for last week.
Oh, sure.
We talked about some undervalued players last week, and I had mentioned that Kareem Hunt was a top 25 running back last year.
Yeah.
He was, but him and Chubb actually both finished within the top 11 in a PPR.
Yeah.
And then the other, same team, we're talking about Baker Mayfield, and as of this morning, last week I had said that he was not owned in about 10% of leagues, and as of this morning, according to Yahoo, it's up to 27% that he is not owned in.
Wow.
So
That's interesting because he did go in my draft. He went later rounds, but he did go later, or in our draft where he wasn't undrafted, I guess is my point.
Absolutely.
So, okay. So you want to get onto the bent predictions?
I do, and I believe it's my turn to go first this week, isn't it?
It is.
As I mentioned before, I'm really high on this year's rookie class, and this week I had prepared to boost up Travis Etienne like there's no tomorrow. And what happens? I wake up and I got a report. Adam Schefter says he's out for the season. So there goes that. But going back to that Cleveland running back duo, my bent prediction is going to be that both Chubb and Hunt will finish in the top 15 again this year.
Wow. Okay. I will put that on the list of our predictions, and we will...
They didn't add much offense. That defense only got better. I don't see that play calling being switched up too much. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, it sounds good. It sounds like a good prediction. We'll see at the end of the year because, they're all good predictions right now.
They are, except the Bears one that you made week 1. So.
All right, so that being said, it's time for my bent prediction, okay? And yes, it's going to be another Bears prediction. This is a two-part bent prediction. My first part of it is that Justin Fields is going to end up as the starting quarterback in week 3 this year. I said before, probably week 4, 5, 6, right in that ballpark. I've been watching. I've been seeing what's going on, and I think that it's actually going to be week 3. Maybe even earlier, but I'm going to play it safe and go with week 3 on. And I think Andy Dalton will be holding the clipboard after that. The second part of that is that not only will Justin Fields be the starting quarterback on week 3, he's also going to end up a top 12 quarterback on the season despite those 3 games. So, again, writing that down. We're going to check it at the end of the year and kind of talk about our bent predictions then, too.
And I actually agree with your bent prediction there, even though the others not so much. But I like this one.
You believe
I like this one.
You've like agreed with me multiple times on this show. You know what that means, don't you?
What?
That means I'm so screwed for this season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Damn it.
I'm like mush from a Bronx Tale. I just jinxed you.
All right. So we're starting a new segment of the show. And the new segment is What's Got You Bent? Okay? So in your comments down below, tell me what's got you bent about fantasy football. You want me to go first, Josh, or you want to go first?
I want to elaborate a little bit about that. What's got you bent now? That could be anything from, shady commissioner rule changes, things like that.
It could be the dude in traffic that cut you off like an hour and a half ago. And you're like, dude, you need to get bent on fantasy football.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody kneeling to knock you out of the playoffs to get those negative points and so forth. But it could be anything related to fantasy football.
Yeah, it could be anything. Yeah. All we ask is that you keep it clean. Second thought, don't worry about it. Just give us what's got you bent, okay? So, what's got you bent, Josh?
Well, what's really gotten me bent, there are a few things that get me bent, but what really gets me bent is a team owner that doesn't set their lineup on a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm.
While most of us do this for fun, fantasy football doesn't make us millionaires.
Right.
Not yet.
Yeah, I'm working on that, though.
But yeah, and I realize a lot of us are in friends and family leagues, things like that, so it's more casual. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have 2 minutes out of your week to set your lineup, why even bother playing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it totally screws everybody else, too. If you think about it, if you're playing somebody that's on the bubble of making the playoffs and you don't set your lineup, they're going to make the playoffs, but you screwed somebody else. So, be considerate. I think you're right. Be considerate. Set your lineup. If you're out of contention, so what? Set your lineup. Don't be a douche.
Don't be a douche. That's right.
All right, so here's what's got me bent. What's got me bent is leagues that don't do their draft online. Now, that being said, I think the draft is the best part of the season. It's where you can get together with all your friends. You can have that camaraderie. You can have jokes. You can have, insults flying back and forth, smack talking. Absolutely love it. But when it takes you 3 hours to draft or longer, it's too long. Get together with everybody. Do it online still. Have everybody bring a laptop, tablet, phone, whatever they need to draft. But do your draft online. It keeps everything moving. It keeps things flowing. It keeps me from talking about how much this has me bent.
And I agree with Alan on that point. The only exception to that rule is auction drafts. I love doing auction drafts live with the whiteboard. Mm-hmm. But, serpentine snake drafts, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's no reason a draft should take more than an hour, hour and a half.
Yeah, absolutely. An hour and a half the longest, I would say. It's not rocket science, man. I mean, figure it out. So that's what's got me bent.
Absolutely.
What's got you guys bent? Let us know. Also, I want to give you guys a little bit more info. A couple weeks ago, the first week of the season, or the first episode of the season, I talked about a website. Okay, and it's actually Bent on Football website is what it is, I believe. I'll have to double check, but it's under construction. We're going to get some things together. I promise I'm not a crook. No, I promise that I am going to get some web pages up for you.
Sounds like something a crook would say.
Yeah, promise from a crook. Okay. But I am going to get some web pages up, and I am going to get some information on there for you. I'm going to have the official rule book of the NFL on there again this year. I had it on last year. I'll have it on again this year for you guys to look at it when that pass interference call comes up and you're arguing about who's right and wrong. You can refer back to it if you want to. But I'll have a lot of interesting stuff on there. I'm going to have Josh as a contributor on there and a couple other people as contributors on there as well. But we're definitely going to have the website going, and we're heading in that direction. So just so you know, I didn't forget about it. I didn't neglect it. I just didn't do it yet.
And we will have more info on the shirts very shortly as well.
We will, absolutely. So, again, subscribe, like, and share this video. Let us know what you think of it. Tell us what we need to improve. If you don't like the background, you don't like the dungeon, you're going to learn more about it too. Just keep that in mind. But if you don't like the dungeon, subscribe and like, and get your name right here or right there, or maybe even right here. Who knows? All right, so this week's show, pretty much a wrap.
Yeah.
I think we did good. High five. All right.
All right, that was kind of weak, but...
So at least we're satisfied with it. Even if you guys don't like it, we still like it. So I'm going to let you go for this week, Josh.
Perfect.
And I will see you again next week. And we're going to kind of play it.
By the way, Alan and I, our league has a draft this coming Sunday, so we'll be discussing our draft picks next Tuesday on the show.
We will. Yeah, we will. So you'll see that video on Wednesday of next week, but we're gonna record it for you on Tuesday and talk about drafts, and we're gonna talk about how much better I did than Josh in the draft. And,
yeah.
And how many championships I'm gonna win compared to what Josh is not going to. So that's all we got for this week, folks. Josh, thanks again for being on the show.
Appreciate
I'm going to talk to these guys in private for just a minute, so
okay,
if you don't mind.
And thanks everybody for joining us in the dungeon.
Yeah. All right. So now it's just me and you here. So, want to let you guys know that, like I said before, when you subscribe and you like, it helps us out on the show. It also will help us out if we can bring in some resources for the show. I'm not a person that comes on a video and begs for money, but it is something that I think is important to the show to make it better, to improve what we've got here. We've got a nice setup with our microphone and the video and so forth, but we want it to be better. We want it to be better for us. We want it to be better for you guys. And again, all the proceeds that we get are going to go right back into the show. Not a single dime's going in my pocket or in Josh's pocket. I don't care how much he begs me. It's just not going to happen. So I think that's it. We're going to wrap it up for this week, and I will see you guys next week. So don't forget to get bent on fantasy football.